After weeks and weeks of the NASDAQ and US 30, in fact, the entire stock market getting hammered, last week was brutal. The market just dropped for 4 straight days of just selling. Can you believe the inner circle had only one 390 pip move for the entire week? I mean, 390 pips is good, but one trade for the entire week, that selling pressure was hindering us from finding real opportunities in the market. And then right before the closing bell on Friday, after all that chaos, I finally saw it, a glimmer, a chance. And you will not guess it, that trade, the only opportunity that cut through the entire noise, it was on gold. What happened next? You will not believe. But what is up, everyone? If you are finding the channel for the first time, welcome. We trade the NASDAQ over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You already know what's up. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Now, if you've been watching the markets lately, you perfectly understand exactly what I'm talking about. The NASDAQ, US 30, the whole stock market seems to be in a free fall the whole of last week. And if you were not careful last week, it's either you closed off at break even or a lot of traders blew the account. All the news events and the tariff war made finding clear and profitable trades incredibly difficult. But then in the final moments of the tough week, gold did present an incredible setup, and I'm excited to walk through exactly how I spotted it, how I managed to capitalize on it right before the weekend, right? So let's jump right over onto the daily time frame. This is where the story really begins right now. As you can see here, gold had been, doing pretty well for quite some time, breaking the all-time high. The market had been in a clear buying, move for the past couple of days. Then for like 2 days, we just see here a consistent downward pressure. And then right now, where the market price is, something is starting to shift, if you notice. Now, why I liked this trade, right, is because I know a lot of people are looking forward to buying gold, right? A lot of people were buying gold. A lot of even the institutions, they want to buy gold, right? With the stock market experiencing all of that significant selling pressure, the classic narrative kicks in, the investors flock to the safe haven asset like gold. So at the support area, I know that a lot of eyes were actually on gold. Everyone was anticipating a potential bounce back to the top. You know what that means, right? It means that that area becomes a magnet of liquidity. I think the past few videos we've been talking about that, and I think you understand the concept even more now. You can easily spot these setups right now, right? A lot of orders were placed at this level, and for my strategy, I want to hunt those stop loss orders. They were likely sitting below this level and protecting all of those long positions that the traders have jumped into, right? So that was an opportunity right there. So instead of following the crowd and buying at that potential bounce, I recognized that resting liquidity, those stop losses needed to be taken out. So I made a calculated decision. I decided to go short on gold right at this level. Obviously my target, those very stop loss orders sitting just below this support area. The idea was to ride the momentum as the stop loss got triggered, creating a sharp downwards movement. Right now, for a good stop loss for my level there, I needed a little bit of a range to develop here just before my entry. Then that would give me a logical place to place my stop loss if the market moved against me. But my initial entry, it was right at this level where I'm watching. And just like that, as you can see, the trade started to move. It dropped and kept dropping even further. And I let the trade run for a little while. And finally, all of those stop loss orders were taken out. And you can see we capitalized on a clean 700 pip move there on gold, 745 pips on gold. And that was absolutely lovely. That was the trade that defined the week for me. I mean, the trade that we had on Monday in the inner circle was just, the usual NASDAQ thing. But this one, we had to do a little bit of thinking. Yeah, that is what actually, stood out for me. A little bit of understanding where the liquidity was and capitalizing on those stop loss runs. But let's zoom out and take a quick look at our weekly analysis and see what we're expecting moving forward, right? The week ahead is going to bring, as usual, surprises, right? As with all sorts of crazy events that's happening in the world. Understanding that we are in the middle of a tariff war right now between different countries, right? So you're going to have to expect some potential volatility news coming either way, right? So it is very crucial for you to keep an open mind, especially when you're trying to navigate these markets. So we are not doing fundamental analysis here. We are in for the technicals. Obviously, the fundamentals have just been messing up every single person. Even after you know what is happening, you know the fundamentals, you're still getting cooked in the market, right? So it's really crazy. Let's just look at what's happening on the technicals. Let's just start with gold since we were talking about it. Notice gold has dropped into a very specific point of interest, right? It came down into a good support area after that upward trend that we saw previously. Now, my bias for gold into this week, I'll be looking to buy gold. I'm going to be bullish on gold. The point where it is currently sitting is actually a really good level for me to consider buying. This is probably the trade that I will take for the week, or where I'll be looking for buying trades or so on gold for this particular week, unlike NASDAQ and the USD, right? So I'll be looking to potentially enter a long position right around this current price, expecting it to move back up towards the top. Obviously, I want to see good, bullish pressure first. So right now, I'm also looking at this trend line. It hasn't really been fully tapped yet. So we might expect to see a little bit of a retracement toward that area. However, if the market ends up breaking below this trend line, then gold might be heading for the next support area, which is down here where I am marking up. But even at that zone, my overall intention is to still look for buying opportunities on gold. So overall, I simply want to buy gold this week. Now, if we go over to the 4-hour time frame, obviously top-down analysis, right, you will see that I've mapped out the same support area on gold. Notice that the price is indeed currently sitting at that zone. But if we drop over to the 1-hour time frame, notice how the price action is kind of having a build up at this area. Now, I don't want this build up to last for long because I want to see a clear breakout of this area. I want to see the buyers stepping in really nicely with confidence to push the market to the upside. But if we keep ranging here for an extended period, then we might very well see the market dropping. That's often what happens after a period of consolidation at a resistance or a support area. I like to call that a build up. Nothing complicated this week on gold, simply looking for buys. All right, let's move on to the NASDAQ. There is clearly no debate. This market has been selling for weeks and weeks. It has just been consistently dropping, which has been really quite something to witness. I started trading in 2020 and I've never seen anything like this. So we've really had to be incredibly patient with the NASDAQ and these tech stocks, right? But the selling pressure has been very significant. We also that what we're going to be looking at here, we had a little trend line that we had clearly broken, one that we were using in the past as a bit of guidance. And notice that the price is going to approach a certain area of, support around this zone. Right now, it hasn't really quite tapped into this area. So we might be seeing a little bit of a little drop before anything significant, even thinking about the buyers potentially stepping into this market, right? Let's go to the 4-hour time frame, as it probably makes sense to analyze this strong selling pressure. You can't really analyze that on the daily time frame. And honestly, much like last week, I am really not looking to do anything aggressive on the NASDAQ just yet. I am more in the let's wait and see mode to observe what these markets are doing. Right now, let's mark up the potential support areas. Right now, these are no longer resistance areas because the NASDAQ has clearly been on a downtrend on both the daily and the 4-hour time frame. So these previous resistance levels are now acting as potential support areas, right? So we have these 3 levels marked up, clearly showing us that it's a downtrend. Now, for us to see a shift back into a more positive area, for us to consider buys, we definitely don't want to be surprised by the market continuing to have a further drop like this. Maybe we even open with a gap. I don't even know how to analyze these markets anymore, right? So, we're just open to any scenario at this point, of course. If we see the market pushing up a little bit, then reaching, this first support area and breaking out, then forming a little consolidation, we see some sideways action, then a continuation to the next support area, right? Remember, these were previous resistance area. Now they're support. They're acting as support areas, right? In a downtrend market, the market often bounces off of support, areas and then further drops back down. So that's what we'll be watching out for in case the market goes to these support areas and then bounces back down to go. Now, if price action plays around above these two support areas, then we might start to suspect that the buyers have indeed stepped back into the market. But other than that, it's a seller's market. Those that will be selling will really have to capitalize on these potential, moves, especially when the market gets to those support areas. There's nothing to hesitate about. Go in when you see good price action and sell that thing and drop down with it, right? So there's something I was also looking at, my 200-day moving average here, which I've just placed on the chart. You can see the NASDAQ is currently right below the 200-day moving average. I want to see it bouncing back inside of this 200-day moving average, and then I will be more confident that the buyers have truly gained control. But before that happens, I've said it and I'm saying it again, this is still very much a seller's market. The sellers are in control, just like I mentioned last week. So basically that's what we're looking at on the NASDAQ for this week, remaining cautious and observing what the market is saying. Now let us go to the last but not the least, which is US 30, right? Which in many ways, looks quite similar to the NASDAQ, but with slightly a different picture on just the weekly time frame. Now, on the weekly time frame for US 30, unlike the NASDAQ, it's still above the 200-day moving average. As you can see right here, this suggests that the overall uptrend is still very much in control. And we can see that the market had this drop, right? So we can consider that recent drop as a potential retracement on US 30, since it's still respecting the overall movement and it's still above the 200-day moving average. However, this selling candle had a lot of pressure, right? So for me to be confident that the buyers are truly stepping into this weekly time frame, I would, like to see a week, the market forming a little weak and indicating some initial rejection at the bottom of the lower prices, right? Then a strong push to the upside. But obviously these weekly moves will take time to develop. This is the weekly time frame. So let's drop down to maybe the 4-hour time frame. So just the way I'd marked up a potential support areas on the NASDAQ, considering the downtrend, now just the exact same thing. I want to see USD pushing towards the top and breaking out of these support areas. But then there are two things that can happen, and obviously get to the support area and bounce off of it, respecting the overall downtrend that it currently has started forming. But in my case, for me to see that the buyers have stepped back into the market, right, and then they are ready to push the price back up, that's what I want to see. But for now, this, just like the NASDAQ, still looks like a seller's market. And for my overall go-to chart that I'll be opening probably on a daily basis for this week, it's going to be gold. Honestly, it seems to have more immediate opportunities, and frankly speaking, it just makes more sense to trade gold, right? You don't have to really think a lot. As you guys know, with everything happening with the NASDAQ and the stock market, all of those things, I am really going to be patient with this market, and that's exactly what you want to do. Now, if you did enjoy this breakdown and you found it very helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's been Tino, and I'll see you in the next lit video. Love you guys.